What's up, everybody? It's the developers for Reaper's Isle. Today we'll just be showing you some gameplay. I'm Nick Casey. I'm a programmer.
I'm Rowan Verdau, I'm the lead programmer.
And I'm Trinity, and I'm the producer and the art lead. So when you start the game, you get this letter from your daughter, and the main premises of Reaper's Isle is that you are searching for your daughter, who's a paleontologist who is working on this remote island, and she sends you this concerning message, and so you come to try and find her and help her and figure out what's going on. And your goal in the game is basically to restore power across the island in order to gain access to where your daughter is and find out what happened to her along with the other people on the island.
So as the gameplay goes, you
Where
might
is
have noticed some
everyone?
pop-ups on screen.
Hello? Anyone here?
These are just some of the tutorials that we teach the player what they need to do at certain points.
You might have noticed he just turned on a generator, so to open each tower, you have to turn on the corresponding
Hello?
generator or generators
Anyone?
that allow you to
Still
access the
nobody.
tower, and then at the top of the tower,
There's
there
got
is
to
a
be a way
power
to turn
box
the
that
power
will
on in here
restore
and
power to the
maybe
biome
find a
that you're
way to
in.
communicate with someone.
And we do have some things like a flashlight in game to kind of help in some of the dark, scary environments. We also have discoverable logs throughout the island, and you can see this one is one of the logs actually from your daughter. There's a cast of little characters who you only really come to know through these journals, so it kind of incentivizes players to kind of explore and discover the story of what happened on this island.
The logs are also stored in the journal for later viewing if you want to go and reread them.
And we also have some stuff like ecology. So as you saw, like there's a little question mark. So as you discover some of the like creatures of the islands,
Two.
information about
These
them
are
will
a
end up
lot
being
of
recorded
stairs.
in the ecology part there.
So these are the power boxes that you have to interact with to turn on the power. So you flip all the switches, make all the lights green, and then you flip the big switch,
Yes,
which
it
turns the
worked.
power on to the
And
whole
it looks
tower.
like this radio is
We like to do
documenting.
some
I'm
environmental
just
storytelling. So
following
as you
the
might be able to
map,
tell,
and
there's
I
some
need
like
to
dying
reach
plants in
whoever's in
there, some
charge.
writing throughout the
I'll
building,
repeat,
some
this is
active of
documenting.
furniture.
Is anyone
So
here?
we do have we have a limited number of
Is
props
that you?
considering our
It's me,
team size
Nora.
and just the span of time
I
needed
can't
for
believe you're here.
development. We've only
Then
worked on
tell
the
me
game
straight.
about eight
I came
months
as
right
soon as
now.
I got your
But
message.
our team has gone really
Where are
far in
you?
just a short time in
Why
creating a
is
lot of
no one
assets. But
here
we
at
do
the
have to
beach?
like
You need to be
reuse the assets in
careful.
different compelling ways in order to tell these
It's
stories
dangerous.
with even using the few props and kind of
Everyone.
like
You're
mismatching them to
breaking
make
up.
them
I
seem
can't
original, even
understand
if it's
you.
kind of the same
I'm
things over
losing
and
it.
over and over again.
And as we exit the tower here, you'll see a creature that just appeared from the open gate. These are some of the creatures that you'll see throughout the island, and they are not friendly. So it's best to hide from them and use rocks to distract them. As you can see, if they see you, they get too close, they will attack you. In the top right corner, you'll notice that the indicator is changing from yellow to red. That indicates your danger level and what the creature is doing.
So the yellow is kind of like an investigative stage where they've either seen or heard you and are trying to figure out where you are. And then the alert stage is they're actively pursuing you as they know exactly where you are. And as you can see, we have quite a lot of trees, and making an open world game in such a short time span, we had to really figure out efficient workflows. So we used Speed Tree Modeler, which is a like 3D tree modeling program that can really quickly make trees. And then I just custom made textures for the bark and leaves and all the trees. And this way we were able to quickly assemble like some varieties. And then we used some other special touches in Unreal, like the fade from the bark off the ground that kind of fades more into the grass, and some gradients and plants. And then some like ground plants are made in like Maya and such and other 3D programs.
So as you can see, we have some different areas across the map that are just little side areas where you can pick up bits of lore. We have some more environmental storytelling with some tipped over chairs and some objects scattered about. This is just one of the examples, but we also have some dig sites like for paleontology, and we also have module lab sites for scientists.
And we kind of try to have like a progression with a lot of the lore-based little logs you pick up. So your the player will become especially curious about just like where this person goes and what becomes of them. Because you obviously there's no one on the island anymore. You kind of find their story through what they've left behind.
And as we come up this hill, you'll see that the map kind of like opens up, and you can see one of the first big markers, which is the lab elevator. Um, it's where it's like the base hub of the entire 3 biomes that you'll be going through. Um, and it's where you'll hopefully find someone.
Amara, are you there?
Mom,
So as this little audio cue
where are
plays,
you?
I'm at a
I'll
small
just
building
talk about
near some kind of massive hole in the island.
environment that was made.
That's the entry to the
So
laboratory site.
we didn't
where we were
want
studying
to
the
hand
fossil.
paint this or like
That's where
handcraft the
everything
environment,
happened.
as it would take a
Everyone's gone.
pretty hefty amount of time, and we did
I
not
was so
have a whole
scared.
long
okay.
development cycle to do that.
I'm here.
So we used a program
Just
called
tell me
Gaia,
where
which
you
just
are.
helps create
Okay.
terrain
Sorry. It's been a
that we
nightmare.
had help from some of the professors
I'm
on,
locked in the
and
laboratory
we
at the
imported
bottom
that
of the dig
into
site. I
Unreal,
had to turn
and
off
then
the
we just
power throughout
applied
the
an auto
island to
material
stop
to the
the
entire
creatures.
landscape to help even more
The
time with
creatures?
development.
I saw one on the beach. I've never seen anything like it. What is it?
As you can see in
They
this like
started appearing
skywalk
ever
area,
since the
this like
incident with the
giant
fossil.
hole on the
What
island
do you mean they're
is basically where your
They're
goal
unusual.
is to get down into
Like
this
nothing
elevator
I've ever
and get
seen
down into
before.
this lab
They
at the
don't come
bottom of
from
the
this
hole.
world.
And the
They're
elevator
almost in
doesn't work
between.
until you turn
The
on
best way for
power
me to
throughout
explain them is that they're
the
like
different
ghosts
watchtowers throughout the
or
island. So you turned on
phantoms.
one on the beach, and you'd
What
have to
do you
turn
mean
on 2 more
phantoms?
different biomes. And this is
Well,
also being
this
explained a little bit in
physics
the
inside this
dialogue that
building.
happens here.
There
And you'd
must
also be
be a
able to pick up the
logical
map there to
explanation.
help you navigate a bit more.
Maybe a hyperactive
And
bioluminescence
that map's a little bit
or a
outdated, so we
unique
have a new one coming.
ecosystem
But
we have yet to
so that'll help
discover.
players with
I
navigation.
don't
That's
have
been one of
time to
our
explain.
biggest hardships with
They're
an
not
open world
normal
game like this.
creatures.
It's kind of like leading the player.
They're
As you
all
can see
over
with
the
this like
island.
tipped car,
You
we
must
also
be
try to lead them
careful.
with like lights
Okay,
or
okay,
directional
calm
objects.
down.
But having
I
something
hear
like a
you.
map and
Tell
objectives in
me
the
how I
journal
can
helps as
help
well.
you get out of there.
I shut down the generators throughout the island that power this facility and the elevator that takes you down here.
After going to the lab,
You'll be
you're
able to see
prompted to
the
go
road
to the
map of
next
the island.
biome, which is the
There should be a
forest.
map you can
And
pick up nearby.
the forest is different
I
from
must
the
go to
rest
the
of
forest
them,
region
where
first
we
to
have
restore its
some
power.
alert
I'll
flowers
help you from
and a
there.
different type of
Once we
creature.
restore power to the forest and swamp this facility, we'll have
And
enough
that's one
So
of
power
the
to
alert
resume its
flowers right
normal
there.
operations.
Wait, if you shut down the generators, why would you want me to turn them back on?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that
So we've
undo
just
everything
entered
you
the
did?
forest.
I
As you
did
can
turn them
see,
off,
there's a
but once
lot
I
of
got down to
foliage
the lab to
everywhere,
shut everything
lots of
down, I
bushes,
lost access
a
to the
lot of
elevator.
alert flowers that are going to be
Can't you
screaming
just turn the power
for
back
the
onto
various
the
creatures
elevator
around
and come out?
Well, I would, but the power
to let
short
them know where
circuited,
you are so
cutting
they
off
can
the
hunt you
power to
down.
the air circulators,
And also
elevator,
we
and
have
the entrance to the
a very
laboratory.
large creature in the
It must
background.
be
That's
part of some
the
emergency procedure.
forest monster that
Okay,
looms and
that
is a lot
sounds
quicker
very
than
unfortunate.
the
I'll
meadow
head
monster,
towards the forest
but
now.
um,
That seems strange.
has a
I'm
very
sure
poor
it's just
eyesight,
hard
so
for
it's a
her to
lot
explain.
more difficult for it to notice you.
one of the main things that we had to focus on, especially for a very AI-based game, is the animations. And the way that Unreal's built-in AI system and built-in animation system, they aren't linked together at all. So it was very hard to figure out how to mix the two together, and we had to figure out a lot of workarounds for those.
As we're going through, you'll notice that there's actually 2 generators in this camp. So we wanted the player to explore the areas, interact with the creatures in the environment, and use uh, some more stealth and various other mechanics in the game.
And the way we kind of imply this, very simple puzzle of discovering where these generators are is that wire you see on the ground. And Rowan can explain how we went about making that.
Yeah, so Unreal has a built-in tool called spline meshes, and essentially what they do is it's just a math equation that figures out the start and end points, and then interpolates along that line to figure out where it should spawn meshes. And it's a really good tool for development. So like these wires were made with it, but also the fences and walls that you see along the sides. So these chain link fences and also the concrete barriers that you may have seen earlier are all made with that. It really speeds up development because you don't have to hand place a mesh over and over again. You can just drag these out and bend them and deform them to whatever shape you want.
Although we have like, a couple different towers and some repeated like exterior buildings, we did try to add some variety to like the insides.
Okay, so as we head to the swamp here, there's going to be a little cinematic sequence in which a swamp monster charges through the gate and destroys it. So, we're using a multiple camera system to where we're just switching the camera views to achieve like a more cinematic experience, and then using Unreal's chaos physics that are built in to achieve that breaking effect.
Yeah, and as you just saw from the gate crashing and that creature over there, these are the swamp creatures that you'll run into. Um, and these are a little bit more reactive. So if you make like a splash noise as you're walking through the water, or you throw a rock, it's going to dash at it, causing certain objects to break when they hit, or it'll stun itself on the wall, causing it to freeze there for a little bit. And as far as the water that we walk through, because this is a swamp, we wanted a way to slow the player down to add a little bit more challenge for the creatures to impose upon them. So we just added a little slowing effect, so they're more likely to get hit by um, this creature's dash. So here we've made it to the second part of the swamp, and you've probably noticed there's a lot of foliage, monsters, and different objects on the ground in the world. And to kind of help lessen the lag of everything, we had to use some inbuilt Unreal tools to load these in slowly so that it wasn't all at once and would cause a bunch of lag. So doing this increased the performance by a lot and helped us out with testing and just play testing our game.
So these are some of the module labs that I mentioned earlier for the scientists that kind of fit the area, and just some more storytelling.
And we try to like make a difference between the different things in the world because there's these military sites, but we also have stuff that's specific to the scientists. And we try to like make distinctions like with the vehicles. Like the scientists tend to have like yellow on things. They have yellow vehicles, they have yellow on their towers. And then obviously the military camps have their green camo and they have little green cars as well.
And up here, we're nearing the last power box that we need to power the lab and go down into it. Um, and after we've powered it on, the last thing we need to do is go back to the lab.
And here's one of the module lab you can find kind of just outside the forest. And we do a little set dressings in these kind of areas. They're kind of like safe zones. So you'll have checkpoints usually as you come in here, and there might be some messages like on whiteboards. And so this whiteboard message has something to do with like the log that's in here. So kind of building on the storytelling in different ways in the world is something that we were really trying to emphasize. And we also just wanted to show off our props in kind of a safer environment to give players, a little time to rest from all the monster craziness in the world and kind of time to decompress before they get back into the flow of it. Okay, so this is where you would approach the elevator, and after turning on the power throughout the islands, you'd be able to go down to the lab, which would be the end of the game where you would encounter basically the final boss.
And this is the end of the gameplay right before you go down into the lab. And this is where we'll stop the gameplay. If you want to find out more, you can go to the itch page, linked in the description, or you can search this game up on Steam. But yeah, thank you for watching.